everybody, it's John. Welcome back to the channel. Good as always to have you along. Coming on the heels of 2022's Prey, we now get Predator Badlands, a new movie in the Predator franchise. But is Predator Badlands badass, or is it just bad? Here's my review. So before going into Predator Badlands, full disclosure, I knew nothing about the Predator films. I hadn't even seen Prey, the one prior to this, so I did do a rewatch on that. If you haven't seen my video, check it out. I asked the question, do you even need to see Predator, the original one, or Prey to even understand or appreciate Badlands? So if you're interested in that question, please check out the video. But before we get into it, what is Predator Badlands about, and how does it fit into the overall franchise of Predator? Dek, a young, undersized Yachua from a warrior clan, seeks to prove his worth as a hunter to gain his father's approval and elevate his status within the clan. Viewed as the run of the litter, Dek selects the notorious lethal planet Jenna as his hunting ground and targeting an unkillable apex predator. His older brother secretly supports him but warns of the dangers. Dek learns that his father has ordered his brother to kill him, deeming him too weak to survive. Upon crash landing on Jenna, where flora, fauna, and environment pose constant mortal threats, Dek struggles to survive on his own. On his journey, he forms an unlikely alliance with native creatures and a synthetic humanoid named Thea, played by Elle. Together, they must survive, and in a world where his kind is the ultimate predator, he learns what it means to finally be the prey. Okay, first things first, I will start with the positive. For better or worse, this movie is its own movie. It is so much different than any of the other Predator movies I saw. Predator 1987 is its own movie, and Prey is a completely different movie than that movie, and this is a completely different movie than Prey. So, you know, you're either gonna like that or not like that. But with that, I will say this movie is super entertaining. It's really fun. I mean, if you like sci-fi like I do, and you like action, this movie strikes all of the right notes. I was a little surprised, as I've seen with other reviews, that this movie was not rated R, because one thing about the other Predator movies and the Predator franchise in general is that it is very action, gore, violent, and I was a little hesitant going into this, thinking like, how are they going to still elevate the stakes in that way without being so direct? And they do make it work. I think it's because you're seeing a lot more anamorphic, alien, you know, cyborg type destruction killing, but it's still really entertaining and well done. I mean, one thing that Dan Trachtenberg knows is this franchise. He stepped his foot in the water with Prey, and this is like taking a deep dive in. It will not work for some people, but you know what? It is a fun ride. You are discovering new things. Elle.'s performance is pretty good, and she does help kind of carry the movie and draw the narrative along. We have that human connection, being that she is half human, half cyborg. But one thing I think is going to lose people in this is probably the way it's structured. We're so used to the Predator being the threat in both Predator and Prey. Some people might be thrown off that we're seeing it through a Predator's eyes. You know, I get what they're going for, and yeah, we're seeing the same character traits that you kind of saw in Predator, the original, and definitely in Prey. Both of the movies have to do with, you know, self-worth, discovering one's self-worth, being scrappy, discovering what it means to be both the predator and the prey, and respecting both sides of the coin. I think the other ones work better because you're seeing it from a human level and a human perspective, and we have all been in a situation where we feel like somewhat prey to a larger predator. So I don't know, I get the concept here. It's really interesting, like how would the predator take being the prey? I think they do a pretty good job humanizing the predator here and making you feel for him, but I don't know, I just don't know how it's gonna land for me. Maybe it was a bad thing that I had just seen the other two movies, Predator and Prey, because going into this, if I was to have gone in cold, I think it might have actually struck a better note. It's almost like ignorance is bliss in that regard, but now having seen the other two movies, this is more entertaining. There's definitely more CGI. It's definitely an upgrade from the other two in the sense of being more of an action adventure film. So if you're looking for that, yeah, I would say awesome. It's kind of how I feel about Tron Legacy. I mean, it's not a perfect movie, but it was super fun to watch on the big screen and super cool to see in 3D. This is kind of the same thing. And I'll be the first to admit it, I don't have a huge emotional connection to this franchise as some people do, but I do appreciate Dan Trachtenberg and the way he is trying to evolve this franchise. But coming from Prey, which was a smaller movie compared to this one and a lot more intimate film, it still explored deeper narratives using the Predator lore as the foundation. That's one thing that I think is really cool that this movie does as well, is it takes the building blocks of Predator, the things we know, and expanding on that to create a completely different film. I mentioned in both Predator and Prey, for better or worse, one thing that I love about these movies is it takes the elements that it wants from the overall lore of Predator and kind of creates what it wants to create with that. This movie does the same, it elevates that to the next degree. I think Dan Trachtenberg is extremely creative when it comes to taking what we know and kind of subverting expectations in that regard. So this is going to sound somewhat like a positive and maybe negative review, but honestly, I think as it stands on its own as a film, this is a great ride. I like that in the beginning and on the surface, it might feel like a generic sci-fi slop fest action adventure, but it hooks you in with that and then starts to explore, like Prey, deeper narratives of what it means to have self-worth, what it means to prove yourself, how important it is to actually chase dreams, and questioning if those dreams are really your own. I know it sounds a little bit grandiose for a Predator film, but that's kind of how I felt about Prey too. And don't get me wrong, it's not like super profound or anything, but that is what separates this film from others like it that have failed. I think from Prey to this, it's a little bit of a reach. I mean, I feel like there should have been a story within these two that helps kind of bridge a better gap, because for some, it could be very jarring going from that to this. But you know what? Like I said, I think Dan Trachtenberg really just pushes the envelope with this franchise, and I'd be lying if I didn't say I was curious to see where it goes next. So this is coming from somebody who was not a huge fan, didn't know too much about Predator, and I guess I could say I am now, so that's cool in itself. But where does Predator Badlands stand on my scale? I would say out of 10, I would give this a 7. I still do like Prey better, but you know what? This is really fun. It's a good ride. I think it's a spectacle on the screen, and where you have so many bad, just garbage sci-fi movies, this is a highlight. This is one that is a little bit better. So there's certainly things here that you could hate on and things that will not work for some people, but I think at a very basic level, it's a fun ride, it's a good movie, and you will not be disappointed. But with that being said, am I wrong? And what is the best Predator movie? Leave me a comment below. Let me know what is your favorite Predator movie of all time. Please like and subscribe. Thank you so much for coming along again, and I will see you guys at the movies. Bye.
It changes colors, like the chameleon. It uses the jungle.
You saying that Blaine and Hawkins were killed by a fucking lizard?